So you have your acoustic guitar. This thing I'm going to show you could be hindering your tuning stability and could be causing your guitar to not stay in tune and possibly even break strings. So I've toured with a bunch of bands at this point, and I've done several tours with country bands, acoustic bands, where I have a lot of acoustics I have to care for. And one of the things I've learned is it's not just enough to properly ramp and slot your saddles. You also have to make sure they are super smooth. And unfortunately, the files that you can buy from the luthier supply companies, I haven't always found to do the best job of this. So I'm going to show you how I smooth out my saddle slots on every guitar that I meet on tour. Now, just a preface, I would only do it once, and then I wouldn't do it again until you're noticing issues. So this isn't something I recommend you doing often. This is a one-time deal, and then you do it maybe 2-3 years down the road if it starts to break again, right? So let's go ahead and dig into it. So first I'm going to remove my saddle. Now what I'm going to be using for this is the Mitchell abrasive wire. And this is a 64 thousandth of an inch thickness. And I'm going to cut myself off a decent amount of wire. Now, if we were to open up right here and we could see cross-sectionally, you would of course have where the bridge pin enters, but you would also have a slight ramp that comes straight up out of the guitar and then turns into a slope, right? And I don't have a string on me, but if you ever put your strings on, when you pull them out, you notice the string has a slight curve to it. And that's from this ramp in here, right? So all we're trying to do is make sure it's smooth and it's wide enough for your strings to be in. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna slide my wire inside. Even though you can see mine are a little bit deeper than what yours may be, this is for any acoustic guitar. It's just the drasticness of how far you come up will change on whether it's a true slot or not, okay? So you're not going to be able to see my hand inside of the guitar, but I'm going to keep them parallel on top of each other. The string is going to try to stay as straight as possible this entire process. So first thing I want to do is top the string, and then I'm going to come up into the slot, and I'm just going to gradually go up and down with the wire. And then I'm going to you can't really see, but it's very minuscule. I'm going side to side just to make sure that that opening has no burrs on it. And now I'm going to slowly adjust my hands to where we're getting that entire slot. And you can see that is a beautiful ramp. So essentially underneath, this is the movement that my hands are making, right? So we're making sure that we do the full angle to get that entire ramp. And then when we're done, I'm going to pull this hand over a little bit. And I'm just making sure, especially on the lower strings, that I hit the sides. The treble strings isn't really important because 64 gauge is still thicker than the wound on the high E and the B, so you're okay on those. But the E, the A, and usually the D, this will be as thick if not thicker, so you want to make sure, the string will be as thick as this. Sometimes it might be a little bit thicker. So you want to make sure that you just kind of hit those sides so that there's nothing catching or able to break the string. Okay. So it's as simple as that. So really all what we're doing is you're just literally smoothing it out. And it's not going to show up the best on the video, but if you look in there, you can see how nice and smooth the ramps are now compared to what they were. So I went to luthier school, and one thing that we were taught in school was that whether you have a true slotted bridge or not, you always wanted to use the saw and the file to create just the smallest notch for the string to set in, and to smooth it out and to create a slight ramp coming up out of the bridge so that the string could have a curved angle to sit on and not a hard 90, right? So even on a normal guitar, you want the slightest curve. These are slotted, so they are brought in a little bit, as well as a heavy curve. The wire, like I said earlier, and I just want to iterate it, it is for any style bridge. All you're going to do is you're going to follow what is already there. The reason I came so far up is because these already have those in it. That's something I did when I was in luthier school, and I thought it was a good idea. And slotted bridges are awesome. Taylor's not necessarily that's not necessarily their way of doing it, but that's what I did in luthier school like 10, 15 years ago. So I call it luthier school. It was a repair restoration class, but you still want the angle ramp. So if you had a guitar that didn't have the full inset, instead of coming all the way up into here like you saw me do, you would just stop at about this point. So you would just follow the path of the string, right? So that's really all we're doing, is we're using this to make sure that wherever the string contacts, it's smooth. So if you have a slotted bridge like on Martins or some Gibsons or this, you come as far up as you can to kind of create a taper so everything is nice and smooth, because you want to hit everywhere the string is touching. If you have a guitar that isn't a slotted bridge, and the slots aren't as deep as mine, then you want to just go wherever the strings are going. So there's no reason to create more cutout on your bridge necessarily. You just want to follow what's already there. So this is something I started doing on a few tours ago when I couldn't figure out there was a burr. I used my files to file everything out, nothing. And I was like, let me just try this. I tried it, and then we went several shows without breaking a string. And I finally was able to find a way to get rid of the burr that was breaking so many strings. And then I noticed that the tuning stability just shot through the roof. And if it was an acoustic guitar and the guy was like, yeah, it doesn't really stay in tune the best to leave the strings on for a little bit, I would smooth it out, and then it was like perfect. Again, I want to stress the term, we're smoothing it out. This isn't meant to remove a bunch of material. This isn't meant to completely change the instrument. It is literally just smoothing out the string slots so that it is a nice, smooth wooden surface for it to smooth on. So less is more in this situation, but hopefully this is something that could help you out. Try it on your guitar. Let me know in the comments how it works. This is Mitchell abrasive wire. I wrote over the size, so I can't tell you what size it is. Oh, number 50 is what this says. No correlation to them. I just really appreciate what they do. They make some really good stuff. So check it out. It's actually called Mitchell Abrasive Cord, but I call it wire. But yeah, check it out. Let me know if this helps you out in the comments, and stay tuned for more videos coming. Thank you.